So the purpose of this conference is really to focus attention around the fact that there are a tremendous number of changes going on in the legal profession today and in legal education. And what we really want to do is to try to put those things together, to try to think about how legal education is responding or should respond to the changes in the profession, and how it should help to shape the profession, not just here in the United States, but around the world.
I think legal education and the practice of law is going to change more in the next 10 years than it has in the last 200 years. An example of that is that when I graduated, my contemporaries graduated, and for hundreds of years before that, we always hung up our shingle. And today, the graduates register their domain name because they understand that they're going to be practicing in global law firms and in virtual law firms and basically on their computers. And this is something that may seem far-fetched in the future, but it's here and now.
What globalization has done is that no longer lawyers in any part of the world can confine their intellectual inquiry as well as knowledge and understanding of a law relating to a single jurisdiction. There is inevitably a transnational, comparative, international, global element to many areas of law. There is a need for students as well as law schools to provide this knowledge and to create a research environment which lets the knowledge that could be shared between jurisdictions and an opportunity for the students to get that within the law school environment.
There are a lot of conversations happening about legal education in the United States particularly, but I think increasingly globally. It started, I believe, before the recession. The Carnegie Report was sharply critical of the U.S. Educational market and the debt load for students and the level of engagement and what students were learning. And then with the recession and the contraction in big law firm associate hiring, the trickle-down effects of that change, I think got a lot of attention focused on the conversation that was already started. So the energy has really increased in the last year or two.
The American system of education is the gold standard around the world. It didn't happen overnight, and it isn't easy to maintain. I go to countries where if you spend $100, you can get a license to open a law school. They have failure rates of 80% and above in their students. That is something that we don't have here, and they recognize that that's not how a profession needs to educate its next generation.
Globalization has brought a lot of challenges to the legal profession. One is the delivery mechanism of legal services. The other one is the price. How do you price legal services? Now a client, the customers, are able to pick and choose service providers from not just their hometown, home city, home country even. Now they have choices of the legal service provider from a lot around the globe, and that becomes interesting for the legal providers. How can you be competitive with somebody who have perhaps the different labor cost structure and even the different legal education cost?
I think students who are currently in law school and have been hit by the recession are understandably nervous about the future, and as someone who's teaching those students every day, as lucky as I am to be at this conference and as many of these ideas that interest me intellectually, I think there is an urgency to fixing the debt load for American students, for intervening in the basic business model of law school, for educators to take seriously the effects of the recession on students at even the best schools. And without sounding pessimistic, I think it also provides a very big opportunity to rethink certain fundamental traditional aspects of legal education that might be ripe for change and might in fact open up new opportunities and new markets.
Well, we have a justice gap in this country where we have about 80% of poor people cannot access our courts. Most of them are minorities and women. So we need lawyers. We just need them in different areas.
So law is it's a wonderful profession, but it does have this quirky feature. It's the only profession in the world in which you can't say anything new unless you could prove that someone already said it before, meaning that there's precedent, right? We have this kind of funny precedent-based view, which makes us inherently conservative. And some of that conservatism is a good thing, in the sense that it teaches us to respect our traditions. And there are some really terrific traditions in the legal profession that are well worthy of respect. However, it also makes change difficult, and it makes there to be resistance to change simply because it is change.
The question about resistance, I think, is interesting. If you like, it's one of the areas where lawyers' strengths and weaknesses are almost identical. The strength is that these are people whose meat and drink is evidence, who need to see a case made and need to be convinced. And actually, that's a really good discipline to place on anybody advocating change of any kind. The difficulty, I think, comes when that proper skepticism, demand for evidence, turns into hostility and professional protectionism.
Anybody who tries to do something new in the world understands that the most important thing is to understand where the resistances are likely to come from and how to try to meet them, and how to recognize what is important about those resistances while still recognizing the importance to move forward. It's not going to be easy, but then nothing important ever is.
I think with the globalization of the economy, clients are increasingly looking for lawyers who have a global vision, and that means many things. In particular, I think it's become critical that attorneys now have a world view on things. They need to understand how other countries are dealing with different issues. They including ability to speak foreign language and experience of traveling abroad, or even work in foreign countries. And that experience is now a critical piece of a competent attorneys for a client. And we increasingly looking for people with that kind of training and experience.
I believe that in 10 years from now, legal education will be much more produced towards the practicing of law instead of produce big thinkers in law. Of course, law schools will produce thinkers in law, but in a small amount. Most of them will be lawyers, and will be the one who will practice law and will have clients and sort of more pragmatic approach to law.
What we want for our lawyers helping us with global issues is the same thing we want from all lawyers. Excellent results, real proactivity, putting themselves in our shoes, understanding our business, meeting commitments, getting great value. But also, if we don't have lots of in-house folks on the ground, you'll really be in our eyes and ears for what's going on in the country, helping us think 5 steps ahead proactively of what's coming, either from a regulatory or other front, so that we can be best preparing our clients to be successful throughout the world.
Distance learning would be one thing. I think online, blended, not just online exclusive programs, although they may increase as well, but I would predict there will be significant distance learning components in every brick and mortar school, because schools can take advantage of specialties that may exist at other schools. They can collaborate to create specialized programs for students at their own location. So I think distance learning technology will be much more integrated into the existing educational model, and that may be the most fun aspect. Gaming, at New York Law School we're developing games to assist learning for students that we hope will be fun, sort of almost like learning aids that are part of the educational process but involve non-real-time learning, things that can be done outside of the classroom to free up classroom time for more traditional discussion-based small group pedagogical goals?
I think legal education today is it's starting from a great place. I mean, there still is such value in learning the analytical method of thinking and great knowledge of substantive areas of the laws is still continues to be very important. But where it needs to move is to really focus on helping students get leadership skills, project management skills, communication skills, financial literacy skills, and really kind of emotional intelligence, softer skills so that they know how to influence others, how to make teams come together and be effective. And again, really making their commitments, both from a budgetary and also timeline standpoint. So again, those project management skills are really important for lawyers today to be successful.
The one thing I've learned in this business is predictions are very risky. But I think for certain that the legal education of 10 or 20 years from now will be much more connected to the world of practice and the world generally than legal education has been in the past. I mean, I think we've been improving on this over time, but I think that everyone now recognizes that teaching people how to, quote, think like a lawyer isn't just about teaching them a certain set of analytic skills. It's also teaching them about the way the world works.